Infectious diseases Dr. Leong Hoe Nam tells the big story we should assume the new COVID-19 variant is already in Singapore. Malaysia's health minister reveals a passenger who arrived from South Africa via Singapore is the country's first Omicron case. And Grab goes public in the US, but it wasn't all smiles on its first trading day. It's 5:30 p.m. here in Singapore. You're watching The Big Story with me, Haryanto Diman. Subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you never miss a single episode. The week is ending where it began, with the Omicron variant reminding all of us that the COVID-19 pandemic is far from over. Some new developments today. Malaysia has detected its first case of the new variant. The infection was found in a 19-year-old woman who arrived from South Africa via Singapore. The message from Malaysia's health minister: be vigilant but calm.
The system works, we can capture it, and that if everyone sticks to the rules, we can contain. But we also have to accept the possibility that there are already Omicron cases in Malaysia, as there are in other countries as well. What this demonstrates is that we've picked up this case from the 19th of November, way earlier than WHO announced Omicron to be a variant of concern.
Mr. Khairy explaining that once Malaysia found out about Omicron, they went back to do genomic tests on all positive cases from KLIA between 11 and 28 November to see if it was already in the country. And that's how they detected the case. Elsewhere today, Indonesia increasing the mandatory quarantine period for all international arrivals from 7 to 10 days, blaming it on the Omicron variant. Australia reports its first community transmission of the new variant, a school student from Sydney who had not travelled overseas. And South Korea, Prime Minister urging people to work from home and not move around too much, with several cases of Omicron detected so far. There is currently no evidence of any community transmission in Singapore from the two imported COVID-19 cases who have preliminarily tested positive for the Omicron variant. According to the Health Ministry, both cases arrived from Johannesburg on board Singapore Airlines flight SQ479 on Wednesday. The first case is a Singapore permanent resident who was travelling from Mozambique and transited in Johannesburg. He had tested negative for COVID-19 in his pre-departure test in Mozambique on November 29th. The second case is a Singaporean woman who travelled from South Africa. She had tested negative in her pre-departure test in Johannesburg on November 29th as well. Now, both are fully vaccinated and have mild symptoms of cough and scratchy throat. Infectious diseases specialist Dr. Leong Hoe Nam from the Rophi Clinic joins me now. Welcome back to the show, Doctor. Doctor, imported cases were what led to the first community transmission of the Delta variant here. What are the potential weak links we should look out for as Omicron reaches our shores, and the measures that we can take to mitigate the risks of these imported cases leaking into the community?
I've no doubt that some leak may have probably happened. Now, the first case was found somewhere on the 9th of November, but if you think about it, there probably were many cases even before that in South Africa. And we see this happening in UK, in Netherlands. Cases are already there and probably circulating in Singapore already. Number one, the existing cases, some of them may be Omicron. So we need the authorities to just screen and check every single positive case there are. Then for people who come in, they are going to go through vaccinated travel lanes, but they're coming from countries that have existing vaccinated travel lanes. So if they do have a negative PCR or even a negative PCR upon return, they may still develop symptoms later, afterwards. You see, there are cases in Netherlands, there are cases in UK, there are cases in United States of America, and the person could actually acquire it and thereafter come over. I think we should assume it the other way, that Omicron is in Singapore. We should assume that Omicron can come in through the porous nature of our immigration now. And what we ought to do on our part is to get vaccinated, not just 2, but go for your triple vax for your full complement of vaccinations. We need to keep our masks up. We need to keep our social distancing up. And when we eat and dine, I mean, it is 5 persons per table. We put our masks up again when we're not eating or dining. We do all this together, we can actually hold Omicron at bay for a while longer until we know for a fact how harmful Omicron is. We know it's infectious, but does it spread to anyone, everyone, and how badly infected they become?
Doctor, having said that, our battle against COVID-19 is coming to 2 years now. We're currently still managing the Delta variant. We have gone through several setbacks along the way in our journey to living with the virus. And as you mentioned early on as well, not much is known yet. This is uncharted territory for us. So how equipped or prepared is Singapore to deal with the Omicron variant if and when it eventually creeps into the community?
I think Singapore is as prepared for it as it is possible. From the very start, we were not doing enough PCRs, and thereafter there wasn't enough isolation, and thereafter immigration cases were leaking in, and came back again, we didn't have enough hospital beds for Singaporeans. But the situation is different now. I think Singapore's prepared. In fact, I think we can actually hold Omicron together for a few reasons. Number one, we have a good vaccination numbers now. For the eligible group, we are hitting 95, 96%, which is an incredible number. We do have a lot more hospital beds because we have community treatment facilities. If there's a sudden upsurge, we will be able to hold on to it. Number three, it does help that Delta infection has hit quite a lot of people. For one, it kind of brings the immunity up. It kind of acts as a booster when Delta infection infects those who have been vaccinated. And for some people who are not vaccinated, they realize how severe the illness can be, and in turn, they get vaccinated. So that helps us tremendously. Fourthly, and I think this is a game changer, we have medications now available. Intravenous monoclonal antibodies, as one of the companies as mentioned yesterday, so Trovimab still works very, very well against the Omicron virus. Better medications, enough facilities, more people vaccinated. I think Singapore is ready for the game of Omicron.
Doctor, rounding up our discussion today, the holiday season is upon us. Travelers are going on the vaccinated travel lanes. What is your advice for those who are still going ahead with their travel plans amid the uncertainty of this new variant?
Be very prepared. I will be very surprised if you don't get hit with Omicron. You will be challenged with Omicron. First and foremost, please get yourself triple vaccinated. If you're eligible, go for it. Number two, please get yourself a mask. Forget the NDP 2020. Forget the 2020 NDP mask. Get good, qualified, certified masks. If you can, even get the N95 or the KN94 mask. Those will be very good. Number three, you're overseas, but practice the good habits which you have in Singapore. Mask up at all times and mask down only for your occasional drinks and your feeding. Whenever you go, try to keep your social distancing. The others may not follow these rules very closely. You do it the Singapore way, and you'll be very, very safe. All of us have had a long day. It was a long 2 years. I would still say go ahead with your holiday, be prepared, be very ready, and have a good holiday minus Omicron.
Dr. Leong, thank you so much for your advice and your perspectives. Dr. Leong Hoe Nam, infectious diseases specialist from the Rophi Clinic. And if you're looking to travel to the United States, do take note, from this Monday, December 6th, new rules requiring all international air travelers, regardless of citizenship or vaccination status, to show a negative pre-departure COVID-19 test taken the day before they board their flight to the US. The White House saying the tighter testing timeline provides an added degree of public health protection as scientists continue to assess the Omicron variant. Meanwhile, Johor official reported there are more travellers coming into Malaysia under the Land Vaccinated Travel Lane scheme than those going into Singapore. Sharing the figures yesterday, Johor said on the first day, the number of travellers arriving at the state from Singapore was at 66% of the 1,440 quota before growing to 72% on the second day and 88% on Wednesday. This compared to 15% of the quota of travellers from Malaysia entering Singapore on the first day, then 13% on the second, followed by 20% on the third day. A quick look at other headlines. Sale of standard tickets at MRT stations will be progressively phased out between January and March next year. This comes as most commuters are already using stored value cards or account-based ticketing such as contactless bank cards. The move will start with the Thomson East Coast and Downtown lines from January 10th, followed by the Circle and North East lines on February 10th, and the North-South and East-West lines on March 10th. It's 6 years jail for Singaporean blogger Amos Yee. A US court passed the sentence after he pleaded guilty to 2 charges of child pornography and grooming a 14-year-old girl online. Yee was granted asylum in the US in 2017 after being jailed twice in Singapore. And it's official, Singapore-based Grab is now a public company making its debut on the NASDAQ stock exchange in a bell-ringing ceremony held here in Singapore. But shares of the ride-hailing and delivery giant slumped more than 20% by the end of the day. Still, its record $40 billion merger with blank check firm Altimeter Growth makes it the biggest ever US listing of a Southeast Asian firm.
We brought this event to our home ground to celebrate this milestone with all who have journeyed with us through these incredible years. Today, we shine a spotlight on Southeast Asia and how its homegrown tech companies are powering new possibilities for the region's 660 million people.
And making football history, Cristiano Ronaldo has become the first player anywhere in the world to score 800 career goals. Ronaldo achieving this feat by netting twice during Manchester United's 3-2 victory over rivals Arsenal. 36-year-old Ronaldo will now be looking to add to his goal tally when United face Crystal Palace on Sunday, when new interim manager Ralf Rangnick takes charge. US President Joe Biden is set to host a virtual summit next week on democracy. It's a first of its kind gathering and not everyone is invited. Well, China is absent from the list and so is Singapore. Asian Insider is a new feature on The Big Story where we bring you insights from our correspondents and experts in their field. The Straits Times US Bureau Chief Nirmal Ghosh has more on the summit and why it matters.
Yes, this summit has been on the agenda for quite some time. It was in fact a campaign promise. It reflects President Joe Biden's worldview, which is that this is not just about a competition between US and China, two great powers per se, but a competition between political ideology and political systems. Democracies have to show that they work, that a society that is free and open and inclusive works for its people, as opposed to, say, an authoritarian regime, a one-party state, a communist state, a dictatorship, a military regime. This is the challenge. Now, democracy has been backsliding. Afghanistan is back in the hands of the Taliban. There have been military coups in Myanmar, Mali, Guinea, Sudan, and under some right-wing dispensations, Turkey and India, for example, the space for freedom of expression has been shrinking. And there are issues even in the United States. In its 2020 report, Freedom House found that in 2019 was the 14th consecutive year of decline in global freedoms. I think it is reasonable to assume that 2020 was the 15th consecutive year. So the idea is to revitalize the global democracy agenda by focusing on the dividends of democracies. The summit will be on December 9 and 10. It is a virtual summit, of course, and it will include civil society and private sector leaders as well as leaders of these countries. The White House mentions three key points: defending against authoritarianism, addressing and fighting corruption, and promoting respect for human rights. And it says it expects commitments to reforms both at home and abroad. The idea is global democratic renewal, so quite a sweeping agenda, but controversy already over the invitee list.
On that, what was the criteria for the invitee list?
We don't know the criteria. That remains a bit of a mystery, and at times it looks arbitrary. So if you look at Asia, for example, the Philippines, Indonesia and Malaysia are in, but Singapore and Thailand are not. Pakistan is in, but not Bangladesh, not Sri Lanka, not Bhutan. This has raised many eyebrows as to the criteria used. Now, Daniel Crittenbrink, who is Assistant Secretary of State for East Asia and the Pacific, was at a roundtable in Singapore, and he was asked about this, and he acknowledged that, and I quote, there were a range of countries, including some of our closest partners, like Singapore, who were not invited. But this is not a commentary on the strength of our partnership with Singapore, he said. And he described the summit as an opportunity for a quote-unquote select number of US partners. A lot of analysts are, however, saying that this needlessly divides countries, especially in the Asia-Pacific. But having said that, while there may be annoyance, it is unlikely to have any really substantive effect on the strategic aspect of the US's partnerships and alliances in the region. There is another issue. The US itself has been added to the so-called backsliding democracies list in the latest Global State of Democracy report from Sweden's International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance, IDEA. Separately, a Pew Research survey about a couple of months ago found that among developed economies, most people do not see the United States to be a good example. Even Americans largely think the US used to be, but is no longer a good example to follow. So this is the first summit of its kind, and expectations are not very high given this somewhat unwieldy mix of invitees and the scope and scale of the challenge. But then again, renewing democracy is intrinsically a marathon project.
Thanks, Nirmal. The Straits Times' US Bureau Chief, Nirmal Ghosh. You will find more Asian Insider features and analysis online at str.sg/Asia, including a story on why Cambodia's Hun Sen is the man to watch for how Myanmar crisis will play out. Now, is it Omicron, or Omicron? It's fair to say the name of the new COVID-19 variant is causing some confusion around the globe. Kimberly Zhao explains where the name came from.
So today we are announcing B11529 as a variant of concern named Omicron.
We're being asked to follow new rules to stop the spread of Omicron.
Tonight, the first case of the Omicron variant.
All over the world, the new variant of COVID-19 has just about everyone confused on how to pronounce it. Even here in Singapore, no one seems to have decided on a single way to say it.
The Omicron.
Omicron.
And Omicron.
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 Oh my. What my Rona.
Omicron.
Omicron.
Omicron. The Omicron variant was named after the 15th letter of the Greek alphabet, skipping over nu and C. According to a WHO spokesman, nu sounded too similar to new, while C was avoided due to its being a common surname. However the word is pronounced, this poses the least of our concerns. The new variant is worrying scientists worldwide, but it remains to be seen whether it outcompetes the Delta strain.
This means cannot travel again, like normal stuff lah. But some of them will get used to it lah.
I mean, I think knowing that the virus mutates is something that we don't really want, but I think it's already happened, so we just have to know how to respond to it well. But I think we'll be able to respond well and like get through it either way.
Well, it seems there is no right or wrong way to say the word, so for now I'm sticking to Omicron. And that is the big story for this week. For more news and videos, visit straitstimes.com and remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting the red button below. I'm Haryanto Diman. Take care and have a great weekend.